are you?
You would have told her the truth, because I can turn those voices up good. I'm ready to feast.
Alright, in Kpop Demon Hunters, most people probably thought that these two creatures that accompany our man Jinu are demons. But what if I told you that this is actually our first glimpse, possibly perhaps, into other creatures of the KDH world other than demons, hunters and humans, and possibly magicians, as Zoe hinted?
Magicians! I mean demons. Obviously demons.
And that this Tiger-Magpie duo is not just company for Jinu, but also may hint, actually, at his possible return. But before that, let me walk you through all my findings here in Mine Mind. Initially, I honestly just thought that they were demons, but the more that I thought about it, the more that I thought otherwise. First thing I realized was that they were not restricted by the restored Hunmun at the end of the movie, already a clear hint that they are not the thing which the Hunmun is designed or intended to restrict or seal away. Furthering this, I then noticed that the color of their teleportation when traveling between the human and demonic worlds. Notice that the color of the Hunmun is blue and that the demons always specifically travel or affect the Hunmun in a red fiery tear, Guima's color. Now, notice whenever the tiger teleports or even does these skips in the air, it's blue. This and the first observation clearly imply that these two creatures are not under Guima's control. Now, I did a little bit of digging and found out that these two are actually a reference to Korean mythical creatures. In paintings known as Jakodo, the tiger-magpie duo represents protection and good luck, respectively. These creatures are actually benevolent creatures, not at all related to demons. But if then you start wondering, why are they then specifically accompanying Jinu all this time in the movie? Well, that's where we enter an admittedly speculative but very interesting analysis of mine. I propose that they possibly foreshadow the involvement of heaven and the celestial realm, origin of the hunters, and possibly Jinu's return. But how? First, the celestial realm. Since we established that the tiger and magpie are in fact benevolent entities and guardians as opposed to the malevolent entities of Guima, this may only hint at another power or entity and realm that embodies such, where Derpy and Sussy come from. I suspect that they are actually from the celestial realm and are, for some reason, sent to oversee Jinu specifically. Now, we can only really speculate, because this is clearly an intended thing. Out of all of the demons, out of all of the souls under Guima in the demonic realm, Jinu is the one specifically accompanied by these two non-demonic entities, and their motives at least somewhat opposite to that of Guima's. That would explain why they are at times acting to persuade Jinu against Guima's influence in the film. Another hint that they aren't on Guima's side or under Guima's control. So perhaps their purpose is to help redeem Jinu somehow, though why specifically him is quite unclear. But what we can establish is that the celestial entities or realm may be motivated to help redeem souls under Guima's control, at least generally speaking. So when Jinu sacrificed himself against Guima, this is perhaps what finally allowed his soul to move on and let go of the guilt that Guima was using to control him. Thus he is now perhaps where Derpy and Sussy come from, which is the celestial realm. Because note again that emotions are very much fundamental to how the magic system works in the KDH world. The hunters use an inspired harmony of emotions in humans to power their magic, and Guima and his demons feed off negative emotions and use that to apparently subjugate the other demons. Also note that unlike the other demons at the beginning of the film, Jinu's soul was not successfully destroyed by Guima, since Rumi was able to take it before its complete annihilation. This lends more possibility to this speculation since we now know that Jinu's soul is probably still out there. Also, another thing to finally note is why we know that Jinu's soul is probably not destroyed, because for one, okay, so I mentioned that Guima wasn't able to consume or annihilate it successfully because Rumi used the soul, and we know that hunter magic does not destroy souls. So perhaps, yeah, Jinu's soul is still out there. But in all seriousness, aside from redeeming souls, I suspect that the Celestials also had a hand at forming the Hunmun. Since Derpy and Sasi can freely traverse it and the colors of their magic match with it. So since the pair are celestial creatures who can freely manipulate and traverse the Hunmun, I suspect that the Hunmun is actually born out of celestial magic. So the motives of this possible celestial realm are to redeem seemingly souls and maintain the Hunmun. But a peculiar question piqued my mind. Why doesn't Guima actively stop or confront these supposed celestial entities who are against his will and not under his control? Before we answer that, I think the answer may lie in a speculation of the vague history of the KDH world. Because why did the hunters and celestials, we are presuming, only now think of making the Hunmun? If I'm not mistaken, the Hunmun in the movie is actually relatively and fairly recent, around 500 years, if I'm not mistaken. So before that, I suspect that the Celestials sent entities like Derpy and Sasi to fight off demons, and basically a war that kept some semblance of balance of sorts was maintained on the human world. However, something happened that they decided to replace this strategy with the Hunmun. It may be just a discovery of such magic, or something happened where the Hunmun needed to be created, or perhaps even a mix of both. Whatever the actual reason, the aftermath of this hypothesized speculated history, the celestial realm made a pact with Guima and his demons, and that this pact heavily favored the Celestials, of course, since they controlled the Hunmun. They were effectively the winners and had the more bargaining power. But it may be something, the pact may be something along the lines of this. The Celestials and demons will not fight directly. Instead, the Celestials, having control over the barrier, may come and go between worlds and try to redeem souls, while they will not directly interfere with the demons trying to break through the barrier. The humans, instead, that having celestial magic through the hunters, are then tasked to be the ones fighting and maintaining the barrier directly. This setup would explain why Guima does not attack Derpy and Sussy, the Tiger and Magpie duo, as he is under pressure to abide by his pact that the celestial and demonic entities will not directly engage against each other, and why the duo is there trying to nudge Jinu against Guima's influence. This is also possibly why Guima, even as he knows seemingly Jinu's thoughts and intentions, it seems doesn't do anything directly to punish him, since he is under the redemption project of the Celestials, as we speculate, where he can't just interfere with their work and must use emotional manipulation instead to try and keep Jinu on his side. But yes, I suspect that these are the true purposes of Derpy and Sussy, possibly hinting at the existence of a celestial realm and further expanding the KDH world and magic system. Also, I am really wondering if Guima really was and is just the only demon lord for the entire world, or perhaps maybe he's just the main one for East Asia specifically. Since when the hunters create the Honmun in the intro, the animators specifically chose to just show the Honmun being made and enveloping over East Asia, and not like a pan shot that shows the entire globe being enveloped by the Honmun. Maybe another room for expansion. Perhaps these events really just are issues localized to just the East Asian region, and that other places possibly have different demon lords and even perhaps different celestials and celestial realms. Also, are we really to believe that only 3 hunters are responsible for protecting the entire world's Honmun, and that Guima is the only demon lord for the entire world all this time, since time immemorial? Like, is this? I don't think that's feasible and sensible on multiple levels. But yes, those have been my speculations about how Jinu will come back possibly, and the relationship between the celestial, human, and demonic realms, and the possible history behind that. At least in East Asia, it seems, at least. But yeah, so the uh, East Asian celestial realm apparently made a pact with Guima because for some reason that really we have no clue what the reason is, that the catalyst of why they had to organize the hunters to create the human hunters, to create the Honmun to stop the demons. And that led into the current situation where the demons are have this pact with the celestial realm where they're not fighting directly. That's why they allow Sussy and Derpy to go into their realm, unharmed, and to try and redeem Jinu, as we speculate. And then, of course, the hunters are the ones tasked with directly dealing and fighting with Guima. But yeah, what about you, fellow minds? Do you have any other thoughts, any other speculations, any other theories? Freely share them below. I'd love to read and interact with them. This has been The Embodiment, and these have been my thoughts. I'll see you again here in Mind.